The thought of running out of money in retirement is one of the biggest fears a retiree has, and nobody wants to be worrying about this when they're 70 or 80 years old. So today let's talk about how to make sure that you have enough money to retire safely. And this is something I do on a daily basis. I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. I've helped guide hundreds of families into retirement. I have these discussions almost on a daily basis. So if you were to come into my office and say, hey, Azul, I want to get a feel for how much do I need to retire? One of the first questions I'm going to ask you is, what does retirement look like to you? How much does that cost? Does it involve a lot of world travel? Are you going to mostly be with your adult children and your grandkids? Because those are two very different scenarios. So the first question has to do with your spending. Now, I want to caution you because, a lot of people don't know, right? And so that's okay. But I want to encourage you to do something that's going to seem a little crazy. Try to maybe live on this retirement budget for at least 30 days, preferably 100 days, to get a feel for what does that feel like, okay? You may not be able to slow travel through Thailand while you're still working, but you can get a feel of your other expenses. So get a feel for that, because the difference of telling your financial advisor, hey, I think $5,000 a month would be comfortable. The difference between that and saying $6,000 a month can move the needle. It can. So I want you to be careful with that. Because anything you're doing on a monthly basis, and if you're in good health, we're planning for 30 plus years. So, that's a lot of months. That's 360 months at $1,000 over budget. So you're probably not going to nail that precisely right away. It's hard to predict what you're going to spend in retirement, but do the best that you can and then revisit with your financial advisor if you find that you're spending more money. I can tell you, probably 70, maybe even as close as 80% of my clients end up spending less than what they initially told me. But I do have about a fourth of people that come in and say, hey, Azul, actually we're really enjoying retirement. We might be enjoying retirement too much, so we may have to throttle back, but we just wanted to let you know, instead of spending $6,000 a month, we're spending $7,000. So let's rerun the numbers now while we still have a lot of runway in front of us and figure out if there's anything we have to do different, okay? So I said there were 4 factors. That's the first factor is your spending. Okay, the next one obviously is how much money have you been able to save up? What do your retirement accounts look like? What are those balances, right? Somebody that's got $2 million saved, that's a very different situation than obviously somebody that has $500,000 saved. So that's the next thing, is how much money do you have saved? And then let's go one layer deeper. We have to look at where that money is saved. So there's a difference between that money being in a regular 401k or a regular IRA and that money being in a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA. So those are differences that matter. In one case, you're not going to have to pay income tax on that. With your Roth vehicles, you did not get the tax break when you put the money in. And so if you abide by all the rules, the government says you can take that money out tax-free. However, a regular IRA and a regular 401k, you are going to have to take money out. You are going to have to pay taxes as you take money out. So, and that can be substantial. So you want to know about that. And I call them buckets because I advise clients to have money in all 3 buckets. The regular 401k, regular IRA bucket, the Roth IRA, the Roth 401k bucket, and then what I call a tax me as I go account, which would be like your traditional bank account. And you want to be careful because a lot of people retire and most of their money is in that regular 401k, regular IRA bucket. And the challenge with that is every dollar you take out in retirement, when you put gasoline in your car, when you go to the grocery store, when you take a trip, your airline tickets, all of that, as you take money out, that's going to be taxable income. So when you buy a loaf of bread, you're going to pay income tax on it. So you don't want to be in that situation. So the second factor is what your savings rate are and how that looks. Okay, the next thing, and this is something that we don't have control over likely in our 40s and 50s, which is, do you have a pension? Do you have access to a pension either through your employer or if you work for the government, through the government? And importantly, if you do have a pension, first off, congratulations. I see fewer and fewer people that have a pension, but if you do have a pension, another important question is your pension indexed for inflation? Do you have to worry about the purchasing power of that pension going down? And full disclosure, if you're not working for a government entity, most private pensions from private companies, those are not indexed for inflation. So again, it's just something that we have to know. Now the next factor, the fourth factor, is something that we can control, which is how much debt do we have? And there's two types of debt that I like to talk about. There's constructive debt and there's destructive debt. Let's talk about the destructive debt because I want you to get rid of that as soon as you can. The destructive debt, frankly, is credit cards. If you're carrying a balance on your credit card, for some people it might be a car loan. If you've got a large car loan and interest rates are high, you know, a car is a depreciating asset. So I call both of those destructive debt. And you know, the credit card debt, most of the stuff that shows up in the cardboard boxes from Amazon, that's, for most people, is charged on a credit card, and that's destructive debt. So hopefully you don't have a balance there, but if you do, I want you to start paying it down. Now the harder one is your mortgage. And this is a complicated topic now because it wasn't that long ago that people were getting 30-year mortgages and paying 3% or less. So while I want people to have their freedom, and I prefer they don't have debt so that they have optionality, if you've got a 3% mortgage or lower, this isn't financial advice, none of this is, I don't know your situation. I just want to put these things on your radar screen. But if you have a 3% mortgage, the academic answer is likely going to say, keep the mortgage. What the heck's Azul talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I agree, the academic answer will say that. Now, if you're at 7 or 8% on your mortgage, so the academic answer is probably going to agree with the lifestyle answer. And I really encourage people to pay down their mortgage as soon as they can, just because it gives them more freedom. If they want to retire early, it's typically easier to do that. So that's the next one, is the debt. And then I said, you know, there's 4 factors. We've talked about 4 factors, plus one, and it's the most important one, which is coming up. But before we go to the plus one, I also want to talk about another one that is complicated, but it's super important, and that's Social Security. And there are break-even calculators. There's some great free online calculators. I'd advise talking to the Social Security office or a fee-only financial advisor. But there's the academic answer, which is the break-even. When are you better off financially taking Social Security? But I will say this, if you can retire 2 years earlier because you took Social Security early, maybe you can retire at 62 if you take Social Security at 62. Boy, there's a lot to be said for that. And so there's not a right or a wrong here, but you have to ask yourself the hard question, you know, what's more valuable to you? What are you optimizing on? Would you like to optimize on getting your freedom sooner? One of the things I like to talk about is at 60 years old, unfortunately, or I guess I like to remind people of this, at 60 years old, unfortunately, most of us are going to have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy active time. So for myself personally, I'm not old enough to start taking Social Security, but I'm going to factor in very closely, you know, how much freedom does it give me? How much joy does it give me in my early 60s, right? You can hold off Social Security until you're 70. How much extra joy does it give me at 62, 63, 64, 65, when I'm healthier? Those are probably going to be my healthiest, most active years. So there's the academic answer with Social Security, but then there's also the lifestyle, the freedom answer, and I want to put that on your radar screen because I want you to be thinking about that. Okay, I said that there were 4 items. There was a plus item, and then there was another plus item, so I've talked about one of them. The other plus item is your health, and really thinking about your health. You know, if you're in poor health, in retirement, we have what I call the go-go years, where you can go do a lot of things. You have energy, you have a desire to do things. And then you kind of go through a slow go phase where you're not doing a lot of traveling, you're not doing a lot of things. And then there's, unfortunately, the end of life part of the journey for all of us. And none of us know what that's going to look like for us. I hope your journey is easy when that comes. I hope my journey is easy when that time comes. But I'm going to go kicking and screaming. I want to squeeze all the juice out of the youth of my senior years. And I want the same thing for you. And that's really what this video up here is. 7 things that I want you to stop doing in your 50s in order to enjoy the journey more. Retiring is important, but enjoying the journey up to retirement is also important. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.